So hello, my name's David Fitt. I'm the distiller at the English Whisky Company. I've been here for 12 years, so I wasn't here for the first 6 months. 6 months in, I came in, so pretty much I've made all the whisky here. So this is the mash tun. This is where we start, as I said. So we have a small mill on site, so we crush the malt. Very small mash tun, just a 1 ton mash, so very, very small. But we crush our own grain, get a little bit more control doing that. So the processes here, we pretty much keep the same. Whether we're making peated whiskey or unpeated whiskey, we operate the same kind of process in the distillery. We don't change a lot of things. Our peated whiskey, we want to make a little bit different. It's a little bit different to other people's peated, so we want to kind of do something different. I'll explain that as we go through the process. I'll explain what we're doing. But basically the process starts, so we mill the grain. So what we've done is mill the grain to produce grist. So as you know, we've crushed the barley. So we've got the husks, as you can see, we've got the grist, and then we've got this kind of fine white powder, although not the fine white powder that most of you might think that you would want. So we're going to mix this with hot water to produce mash. Basically, it's like a big vat of watery porridge. We're going to leave it here for an hour, just to sit here, and that's where the first part of the magic happens. So in that first hour, what's happening is the enzymes in the malt, the small proteins, the enzymes attack the sugar molecule. So we have starch in the grain, which is a very long chain sugar, but we can't actually make alcohol with that. So what we need to do is we need to chop that up, we need to break it down. So we're utilizing the natural enzyme in the grain to break that starch down into simple fermentable sugars, things like glucose, which are really easy to ferment. So that first hour, it's a little bit like leaving your tea bag in your cup of tea, just allowing the compounds to dissolve into liquid solution. So what we're doing is allowing the sugars to break down through the enzyme action into liquid solution. At the end of that first hour, unlike in your cup of tea when you can take the tea bag out, it's a little bit difficult for us to do that because we have a ton of grain here. So we do it the other way round. We drain the liquid. At the next stage in the process, we're going to add yeast. And yeast is a living organism, a single-celled microscopic fungus, which sounds pretty gross, but it's very, very important to brewers and distillers. Now, if I chuck yeast into liquid at that kind of temperature, I'm going to kill the yeast. And I need the yeast to do a job for me. So as we're pumping the worts from the mash tun, we're going to cool them down quite significantly. So we typically cool them down to around 20 degrees. So that whole process of mashing in, draining down, second water draining down, third water draining down is about 7 or 8 hours. And we pump that liquid, which we call wort, W-O-R-T, wort. We pump that to what we call a washback. In a brewery, that would be known as a fermenting vessel. In distilleries, traditionally, they're known as washbacks. So brewers and distillers, wort is really important to us. You can use it, as I've already mentioned, to make whiskey, as we do here. You can use it to make beer, but also you can use it to make vinegar. Traditional malt vinegar in the UK, Sarsons still make malt vinegar like this, using a very, very similar process. We'd use wort. It's what you do next in the process that would determine what you turn it into. But at this point, it is the same stuff. Now, there's another name for what brewers and distillers refer to as wort, the liquid that we extract from the malted barley. The other name for that, it would depend on your age, whether you know what the other name or not is. The other name for that is something called malt extract. Now, that's not Marmite, that's yeast extract. That's something completely different. Malt extract is typically nowadays used in the food industry. For some of the older people who might be potentially watching this, I would include myself in that. You may have been given a teaspoon of cod liver oil and malt when you were growing up because it was utilised to supplement diet. Much like people might take a multivitamin or something in this day and age, malt extract was used in years past. It's now typically used in food production, particularly things like breakfast cereals. If you've eaten cornflakes or Weetabix recently, you've definitely eaten malted barley extract. I would like to think as a distiller, I'm doing something a lot more sensible with mine. I'm going to turn it into whiskey, but it is the same stuff. So as I said, this process around 7 or 8 hours, and we pump it to one of our washbacks. Let's go and have a look.